Hey everybody, right before the show, wanted to let you know we have an update to our Patreon. A brand new monthly movie podcast is available now for $10 and up patrons at patreon.com/Talking Simpsons. You want to hear me and Bob talk all about Mask of the Phantasm, the best Batman movie of all time? You can hear all about that in our long, almost 3 hours long podcast, patreon.com/Talking Simpsons.
Cartoons from present in the past. Every week will be an animated bash. What a cartoon! What a cartoon! Maybe a short but mostly shows. We'll talk, we'll analyze, exploring as we go. What a cartoon! What a cartoon! What a cartoon! What a cartoon!
Hello, everybody, and welcome to What a Cartoon, where we spell qualm with an X. I'm your host, Parrot Man Bob Mackey. This is an audio exploration of every cartoon ever. Who is here with me today?
Henry Gilbert, and I'm okay. I'm okay.
And who else?
Some say she's a girl in a chicken suit. It's Maddie Kopp.
It's very true. And today's episode is the Hey Arnold episode, Spelling Bee and Pigeon Man.
He's a bold kid. A bold kid.
Hey Arnold. That's what we're watching
Arnold.
that show today, right?
Yes, yeah.
We're talking about it, we're not watching it.
Only 90s kids would remember this show. But
If you've ever said hey to Arnold, you're a 90s kid.
this was a pick of our guest, Maddie. Why? Why Hey Arnold?
So Hey Arnold is probably it's one of my favorite Nicktoons. I grew up watching it. It kind of came out at the right time for me because I was in elementary school and going into middle school as it came out. I think it's a great show. It has a lot of diversity. I think the plots are really memorable. The characters are really interesting. And I don't know, I think it's a really good Nicktoon. I think it's one of the best ones, and I generally like it a lot.
It was a dark horse favorite of mine too. Me and Bob are a little older than you, but I've still watched it when they were new because I did think they were touching in a way and also funny and just well animated too. And the world of Hey Arnold was a fun one to live in. Well, I also wonder too if you identify with it because I know Craig Bartlett, the creator of the show, grew up in Portland, Oregon, so it was inspired by his childhood too, the setting in the city.
Yeah, and I did grow up in Oregon. I grew up in a small town, so it doesn't really reflect the kind of place I grew up in. But I definitely, if you're looking at more Portland, Seattle, that kind of thing, I can kind of see. And that's probably another reason I like it. It's maybe a little more down to earth. Mm-hmm. That kind of feeling.
There's fantasies in it, but it's also just it's a very real world where adults are just disappointing or mean.
Yeah, and I think, and that's the thing. I do like that it does go a little fantastical sometimes. Let's try to think. There's an episode with this guy who lives in the sewer and they have to fight him on this a chess game. And
oh yeah.
So every once in a while it does. And I really like the character designs. They're really interesting. The shapes are. Mm-hmm. But yeah, speaking of character diversity, I think it's one of the earliest animated shows, or even especially kids shows, that have a canonically gay character.
Yeah.
Arnold's teacher, Mr. Simmons, who comes in the first episode of the second season, he's been confirmed by the creator. Obviously, it wasn't blatant in the series during the run.
Noticeable enough, though.
Yeah, people realized that there's the Thanksgiving episode in season 3. You actually see his partner because he's they're at Thanksgiving with him, and then in the Jungle movie, which they made in 2017, I think. It's even more obvious. And two, this one isn't as confirmed or as maybe as blatant, but Helga's mom is basically an alcoholic.
Yes.
She
just loves smoothies.
She loves smoothies. She's always kind of disoriented. There's been references to her having community service or not having her driver's license. And you definitely there's so many untraditional families, and it addresses so many different issues. And I think it seems kind of more modern and progressive for its time. I think of another episode where Harold, who's kind of the chubby bully, there's an episode where he's getting picked on because he's fat. And so he goes on like this cruise to like get skinny, but he just gets fatter. And so, but then the whole thing is he's like, I liked who I was before. And so it's kind of, that kind of acceptance. But also too, one thing I like is some of the episodes kind of end with like, anti-morals almost. Like they don't always end up the way that you would normally think, especially for a children's program. I think when we get to Pigeon Man on this episode, I think that's kind of one of those episodes. Yeah. Also, one of the more well-known episodes, Stoop Kid, the whole plot is like, oh, it's this kid and he's a bully and he bullies people from his stoop. But then everyone realizes, oh, he's afraid to leave his stoop. So everyone starts making fun of him. So I was like, okay, I'm going to help him. I'm going to show him, oh, look, there's all these stoops over the world. He reads like The Little Engine Who Could. And it's like, we're going to get you to leave the stoop. But then at the end of the episode, the stoop kid leaves the stoop and he's like, this is great. Now I can bully kids from my stoop and from off my stoop. And that's how the episode ends.
It's like, well, but who's going to protect the stoop? So it's like, well, you fixed him sort of, but he still justifies staying where he's comfortable.
Yeah. And so I don't know. I think Hey Arnold's really neat in that way, that it's just kind of like things don't always turn out the way you want. Some people are weird and they don't want to be part of society. And yeah, I don't know. It's just, I think it's maybe a little deeper than, a lot of other, kids programming of this time.
Cat Dog didn't have the same kind of interior life.
No.
Not quite.
No, there's several types of episodes, recurring theme episodes like Hey Arnold. And one is Arnold meets an outcast that he tries to help, and usually it doesn't go exactly how he wants. And then others are where you discover the interior life of the weirdos that surround him. Like, you get to see the home life of Gerald in a lot of episodes, or even Sid or Stinky. Like Stinky, you get to find out.
Yeah, or even like when they introduce the character Lila, who's this really kind of smart, like she's this almost perfect girl seemingly, and then Helga realizes she's poor and she lives like with her dad in like this crappy house. And I think that realness of the show, that it's like a lot of kids have different lives and different families and different hardships, and it's always kind of, it's kind of just like this whole general moral that's like you should always be kind to people because you don't necessarily know what's going on behind the scenes.
Or like with Torvald too, like and with in Harold too. Another of my favorite episodes with Harold is where he's just like, he's barely even a bully. He's just like this kind of lost and confused, awkward kid who's just bigger than the other kids, so he bullies some of them. But when he befriends Mr. Green at Green Meats, and he gets into deli work, and he's like actually finds something to be passionate about, that's a really nice episode too, because Green at the start just like, come on, kid, get out of here.
Yeah.
And the king of, or the queen of that type is Helga. Like, Helga is she's really the co-star of the show.
Definitely. Well, another thing, one thing that's so amazing about this show is that all the main cast of kids are all voiced by kids.
Multiple kids in some cases.
Yeah, and like the girl who voices Helga, really extraordinary work by, such a young child. But yeah, Helga, like we mentioned before, her mom is basically an alcoholic. Her dad doesn't care about her, and they always get her name wrong. They always mistake her for Olga, who's her like older, more successful sister. And so Helga almost suffers from, really like neglect, and kind of has to take it out in other ways.
And pushes that on other people, and you get to see that like she has this gruff exterior to push people away because she's just angry at the world because she's got a pretty raw deal.
And I think but it's the same too. It's like I think it's very real, and not only do kids have problems, but also like all the adults are messed up as well, which like we were talking before, Mr. Simmons, the Thanksgiving episode. So Mr. Simmons like puts on this play for Thanksgiving about this family that's like, this uncle and this blah, 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 all these people, and they have this wonderful Thanksgiving. And then like Helga and Arnold end up having really crappy Thanksgiving. So they go over, they're like, let's go over to Mr. Simmons because he, has these beautiful Thanksgivings. And they go, and it's all the people who are in the play, but they're all like awful and like it's miserable. And like Mr. Simmons is having a horrible time. But And so Helga and Arnold are like, well, I guess we don't have it that bad. and even Mr. Simmons is like, he's like, yeah, this sucks, but I love these people. And like, it's really, I think, complex characters and morals and situations for, a Nicktoon.
I was conspicuously silent during most of this conversation because I have not seen a lot of Hey Arnold. But I was a child when this show came out. But in 1996, that was my first year of high school. And in 96, Ren and Stimpy ended on Nickelodeon, and so did Rocko's Modern Life. And I was ready for like the next wild and crazy loud cartoon full of fart sounds and violence. And this was not it. So I went from...
You're too immature.
Yes, I was. I was too mature for Hey Arnold. So I was gravitating to things like Beavis and Butthead and more edgy things. So I would see a handful of episodes on and off, and I would think it was okay, but it was sort of low key for what I wanted at the time. Now I appreciate a lot more what I saw recently just in catching up with the show. And there's a lot of it too, right?
And it's 5 seasons, which isn't, crazy amount, but I think it's pretty long for a Nicktoon.
It really is,
and there's 2 movies. There's the one that came out during the run, and then there's the Jungle movie, which just came out a couple years ago, which was really nice. I thought it was really well done. Even, they obviously had to like recast all the voice and everything because all the kids were grown up. But it was basically Craig Bartlett was able to conclude the series in the way he wanted, which is really cool.
Craig Bartlett has a very interesting history. You guys want to get into it here?
Yeah,
yes, because as far as I know, Arnold has existed since the earliest cave paintings.
Yes, it was his destiny to create Arnold. There's some really good resources for this that I found. One, Uproxx had a very good oral history of the series that they published right around when the Jungle movie came out. Plus, right around when Hey Arnold ended its production the first time in 2004, Craig Bartlett did a really good autobiographical cartoon about how his life led him to Arnold and how he's like, well, the Arnold is the child inside of me, but I've almost killed him by being an adult working on Hey Arnold. Like I've just had producing 100 episodes of TV is really hard. But yes, Craig Bartlett, born in 1956, a baby boomer artist from Portland, Oregon. He grew up a weird kid, uninterested in school and only into music, arts, and creativity. When he would get out of school, he would go on to be a artist in the Portland area and even met a fellow artist named Lisa Groening.
Never heard of her.
She's her own person and definitely not the inspiration for a very famous cartoon character. But yes, no, it's Matt Groening's sister. Lisa
And they both went to Evergreen, right? Not to steal your fire here.
That is correct. Yes. Yeah. They were classmates in school. They were together for 30 years. I'm sorry to say that they got a divorce about 3 years ago.
Aw. So. But did I say Matt Groening went there as well, right?
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. He
Hence
did,
Evergreen Terrace.
That's I mean, if you dig into Portland, Oregon, you know everything that is.
Yeah. If you drive around Portland, Oregon, you're like, oh, hey, it's Lovejoy and Flanders and Kearney.
The
like
corner
all the
of
streets.
Terwilliger Street.
Yeah.
And Bartlett was an artist trying to make his way in Portland and starting to get an animation. And one of the few outlets you had for that, if you're going to stay living in Portland at the time, was Will Vinton's Claymation Studio.
Another R.I.P.
Oh man, this is getting depressing.
R.I.P. marriage, R.I.P. Will Vinton.
Yes, Will Vinton in the late 80s could not have been hotter. He was producing so much stop motion animation.
He had that raisin money, buddy.
He was making raisin money. He was making Noid money. He was, and he was even producing his own upsetting Mark Twain claymation film.
That's really awesome, by the way.
That was the first animated thing that Craig Bartlett worked on with him in claymation, and he also worked on the Noid shorts as commercials, not shorts. And so he said he spent 6 great years there, but he was like, well, I'm either going to be a lifer at Will Vinton's studio or I'm going to have to go off on my own. And he said also at the same time in the late 80s, he was really impressed by this brand new kid show called Pee-wee's Playhouse.
Hell yeah.
And they offered him a chance. He sent them a tape of his work and they offered him a chance to make shorts for the show. And so in the second season, he produced all of the Penny claymation shorts, if you remember, from Pee-wee's Playhouse, which were super cute. Just a little girl telling stories. Her eyes were pennies.
Yes.
Yeah, they were definitely my favorite part of Pee-wee's Playhouse.
They were just so adorable. And they also followed a thing that he did in future shorts, too, of just a two-camera speaking claymation character, which I would think from like a production standpoint is easier than lots of characters or shifting focus, but it also just felt really intimate. You had a character looking at you and speaking to you. And so while he was perfecting his abilities on Penny, then he decided he'd make something of his own. He made his first short called Arnold Escapes Church, starring a young boy trapped in church, bored of this workaday world, surrounded by his parents, and then his imagination takes over and crazy things start appearing in front of him until he is pulled back down to reality.
He's literally interpreting every line of the prayer as if it were a literal thing.
Well, for most of it. So
Yeah.
it's just like, there's just a bunch of dinosaurs
Dinosaurs
now.
are flying, and like planes are flying by too.
Dinosaurs are cool.
But was Arnold
They
in one
are
of the
cool.
Penny cartoons as well? Like just an Arnold style
an
character?
Arnold type
Yeah.
character. If it was Arnold, then Pee-wee might own Arnold. So it's just an Arnold style character.
I knew Arnold had existed in these early shorts, but I didn't know that Helga was there and the bully.
Harold as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like he's in that first short with
Yeah.
Helga.
Yeah.
He had kids he liked to drew, so they exist in the background. And he made several more of them that showed at award shows, and he even made one that was kiddie enough that it could be part of Sesame Street
Right.
too. So Arnold made his television debut on Sesame Street on PBS with his just talking about imagination. It really fit with the Sesame Street brand too, of him like swinging like Tarzan on vines.
Yeah,
and
they're
stuff.
just really charming. I mean, they're really nice and pretty.
Yeah,
and
they're
imaginative.
cute. You can see that was the childhood Craig Bartlett had, like that he was a kid uninterested in school who his only escape was his imagination and the creative outlets he had. And that is the child inside him that Arnold is.
Yeah, and it definitely the shorts, there's not a lot of crossover between how the shorts lead into the animation, but definitely the earlier seasons you do see it is kind of focused on Arnold's imagination. Like there's a lot of scenes where he's just like looking up at the clouds and he'll start daydreaming things. I think he kind of loses that character trait on to the later seasons though.
Yeah, the name of the show even is Hey Arnold, which is like get out of your daydream.
Right.
Hey Arnold. Like that was how many episodes started with just like Arnold, wake up. And I think they realize there's kind of it could get repetitive,
Yeah,
or if you
there's
have
a
to.
limitation to it.
Well, and so while he's also working on a bunch of other like live action shorts or making these animated short films internationally, also in 1990, Craig Bartlett was hired as story editor on the first season of Rugrats at Klasky Chupo.
Okay.
It's how he learned really TV production, the whole size of it,
Yeah.
not just when he produced the Penny shorts, he was basically, as he told the story, he was like for 10 or 12 weeks, he just did only that and then gave them all the shorts. He was not part of the day-to-day operations of a TV show, but being a story editor on Rugrats, that let him see this is how you make an animated TV series.
And for our listeners, story editor is basically the entry-level television writing job, like the first step on the ladder to executive producer.
But he worked his way up to eventually even direct a couple episodes of Rugrats, including Graham Canyon, if you remember their trip to the Grand Canyon.
He directed a Ren and Stimpy.
So yes,
When they needed a guy to direct an episode, he directed the Reverend Jack Cheese
He did
cartoon,
indeed,
which is the
yes.
most insider Ren and Stimpy cartoon, and they got an outsider to direct it. And it looks great. The animation is so great on that episode. So
I think that's even funnier that he then worked on the most insider. I mean, everybody who knew John Kay who worked there was also writing it, but he was the director of it. I think too. So when he directed that and was working in the latter day Ren and Stimpy's, I think that was like it was him working within Games Animation before Games, then to be later called Nickelodeon Animation Studios. They would be the people producing the first season of Hey Arnold. So I think that's maybe why he also was working on Ren and Stimpy, just to get to know the machinery of Games Animation.
I was surprised at the ending when it said Games Animation because I had no idea that was part of the same facility or production studio. But in case you're wondering, when Nickelodeon needed to make Ren and Stimpy without Spumco, who John Kay ran, they had an existing department called Games, which was not related to cartoons at all, but it existed. So I think they just made it Games Animation for a tax reason or for some sort of departmental reason that's very boring. But that's why it was Games Animation.
The old logo was Stimpy as a milkman because John Kay was a dick and said, why not hire the milkman to draw this?
He was used to be a milkman with a bloody knife, holding a bloody knife. And it was called, oh my God, it was going to say Stabco.
Oh God, I guess that's too mean for old Stimpy. But Arnold was always kicking around. He was even at the same time Craig Bartlett was doing a quarterly Hey Arnold comic strip for Simpsons Illustrated.
Yes.
From 1990 to 1993. Again, with it was his brother. I mean, Matt Groening was heavily involved in the publication side of things. As we learned from, if you want to learn more about Simpsons Illustrated, Bill Morrison, our interview with him on the podcast, Patreon, is very informative. But Simpsons Illustrated, if you didn't live through 1990s Simpsons Mania, was a quarterly magazine. There's actually a copyright over there. But the quarterly magazine for Simpsons superfans, which was mostly like either interviews or news about the show, but also had comics in there, including usually sometimes Simpsons comics, but also original comics by other artists. And Craig Bartlett was the lead on those doing Hey Arnold comics. And they also were basically styled like the shorts. And it was just very focused on Arnold. He was basically in the center of it, almost every panel. And it would be him either imagining something or having a crazy adventure in his head and then being told, like, get your head out of the clouds. And so Craig had been working on that up until 1993 when Rugrats producers are in an open pitch meeting with Nickelodeon because, like, well, hey, we want more animated series. Rugrats is one of our most popular. You guys work on Rugrats. You got any pitches? And it was Mary Harrington, who was the executive at the time. She'd taken over from Vanessa Coffey, who had quit in the post-John Kay years of Nicktoons. And as the story goes, Harrington didn't like any pitches until Bartlett pulled out Simpsons Illustrated and said, well, I have this character named Arnold. I could do a show with that character. And when she saw one of the strips, which was Arnold and his friends go to an amusement park, he has a calm, blank look on his face the entire time when everybody else is going crazy on like the rides and everything. And then the last drawing is Arnold jumping out of bed because his dreams are terrifying him. And he's like, ah! And there's this crazy scream on his face. When Harrington saw that, she thought, this is the show. I like this. We can do something with this. And so Bartlett was given the go-ahead, and he chose to help him developing the show were two of his co-workers on Rugrats, Joe Anselbehere and Steve Vixen, who now Steve has passed away. But Joe is the co-creator of, we talked about Paul Germain on Rugrats, the co-creator of Rugrats, who'd go on to make Recess for Disney. Joe was his co-creator on Recess.
On Recess,
too.
cool, okay.
But before that, they worked with Bartlett on the first season in making the show into a show that worked, because Bartlett's ideas work well for a short. They don't really create a universe that you can have continuing adventures in.
So they were sort of like the Sam Simon and James L. Brooks to his Matt Groening, just helping a crazy artist make a TV show.
Well, actually, if you look at the credits are even just like a Matt Groening credits of created by Craig Bartlett, developed by Craig Bartlett, Joe Abelsalabel, and Steve Vixen.
Abelslab.
I'm sorry. It's
Poor Joe.
Anselbehere. Sorry. And so, let's say Joe and Steve, they helped him develop the show, and that it was about a kid in a real-ish city with believable problems, and that he would be living in a house full of tenants that his grandparents rented out, that he would have these other weird kids in his school, led by Helga and Harold, who had appeared in the comics, but also his best friend Gerald, who would hang out with him and tell him he's bold. And they'd have other dopey kids at school, plus a menagerie of outcasts and weirdos that filled this urban city that would really be the type of thing that a kid would go like, boy, this is weird. I want to know more about this. All the city stuff that kind of bores adults, he finds magical, just riding the bus or listening to music or playing chess in the park.
It has a real Mission Hill vibe to it, just like city weirdos, living with city weirdos,
and trying to figure out what city weirdos are, and like rumor mongering is a big part of the show too.
Yeah. There's a lot of scenes. I mean, we have it in the Pigeon Man episode where basically Gerald and Sid kind of are this tag team who tell these legends that about various characters around the city.
And Bartlett designed all the characters to look like food or regular household items. It it's not just football head with Hey Arnold. It's also like, Sid's nose is supposed to look like a popsicle stick.
That's right. Yeah.
Gerald's head is an ice cream cone. Like it's all. Eugene's head is a can, like an opened can with the lid up.
Wow.
It's, Arnold's got a real Stewie head to him. What's
yeah.
going on there, Seth MacFarlane?
Are you saying Seth MacFarlane would have ripped something off?
No, but I saw a very funny tattoo that somebody had. It was like a Twitter meme that was going around. It was a tattoo of Marge and Carl from The Simpsons, like with their arms around each other, and then Gerald was in the center. Like that's their kid. That's their kid.
I've seen that's perfect.
Yeah.
I mean, there's definitely a little bit of Simpsons in the DNA of this show too, for sure, and in the actors, at least in 2 cases.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, that's how they got Dan.
But yeah, and I think too, how could Craig not learn from Mac Groening, or even you would think he would have asked him like, hey, how do you run your own show? How do you create a show?
Yeah, but obviously, you got influence from The Simpsons, I think, in the best possible ways.
Yeah, and then on top of that, you have the Rugrats influence, which that also wouldn't exist if not for The Simpsons too. So it's a real interesting, like, Rugrats, Simpsons pie, all built around at its core Craig Bartlett's childhood too. And so the show actually began with a pilot that was really only shown in movie theaters as a short before Harriet the Spy, which I did see Harriet the Spy in theaters. Did you, Maddie?
Oh, I don't think so. Okay, because when I was a kid, I didn't like live action. Like I would like definitively be like, no, I won't watch this because it has real people.
That's what I'm like now.
So I don't think I would have. It's like I feel like we had like one of the books or something, and it's like, like in the 90s you had like all these orange VHS tapes, and I don't know what any of them were anymore.
Come on, Rosie O'Donnell lit up the screen.
So it's like, or it's like, and then eventually they'd show it on TV or something. So, but I'm pretty positive I didn't see it in theaters.
It was the first Nickelodeon movie. Like, it was the first Nick Studios movie.
Wow.
And it was a daring choice because it was not one of their properties, which is pretty much every other Nick movie is just an adaptation of one of their popular
They should have made that Pete and Pete movie instead of waiting 2 years and renaming it.
Yeah. Well, Snow Day.
Snow Day, yeah.
Oh, right. That was, yeah.
They should. I mean, they honestly should have over Harriet the Spy. But Harriet the Spy, as I recall, it as a 14-year-old boy, I did not particularly like it. I thought I would, but it just felt kind of boring and sad. But maybe
boring and sad.
I also maybe didn't have the right emotional intelligence for that film.
I think it was probably meant for like 9-year-old girls.
Maybe so.
Let's get some Pete's in there. We'll talk.
But on the plus side, I did get to see the pilot for Hey Arnold beforehand, which is a pretty straight adaptation of one of his larger Simpsons Illustrated comics, where Arnold, this weird, almost silent kid, angers a bully, and the bully says, "I'm going to beat you up." And Arnold says, "Well, you shouldn't. I'm crazy, and you shouldn't fight crazy people. That's just too dangerous." And then Harold says, "Oh yeah, well, show me how you're crazy." And in the comic page, he basically does the Michigan J Frog dance and sings the whole song of "Hello, my baby." He does that. In the pilot short, he sings like an original song that's like, "Woo, stop me, hey!" It's like,
There's something you should know, Harold. What? I'm crazy, and you should never hit a crazy person. Ooh, Arnold's crazy! Ooh, he's crazy! You're so crazy? Prove it! Okay.
1, 2, 3, watch me! Hey! Watch me! Now you think you got to put me down? Now you think you got to push me all around? Put away! Don't hit me! Woo! I'll hit me! Man! I got a date! I got to break the play. Don't hit me! I'll hit me! I'm crazy!
So did they? I've never watched the full pilot because then they actually made that a normal episode, right?
They recut it a little bit. Yeah, it
well,
aired.
no, because it's like it's completely redone because like the colors and everything in the pilot.
Oh yeah, the
different.
colors are all off. Actually, he has like an orange shirt.
So I think they might have just redone that whole thing.
You know, it's also a weird one to watch too because it is a little ableist, but I mean that's how kids are. They'd say, like, "Hey, I'm crazy."
It was also like 1995, so
yes. Yeah. So I don't blame them for that, but it was funny just to see that when doing the research of reading the old Arnold comic strips, it's like, oh, they started easy with the pilot. They're like, let's just do this comic strip. And they didn't have any of the stuff with Helga's obsession with Arnold in the original stuff either. That all kind of grew from there.
was Helga the first tsundere character we all got to know?
The Tsundere Knight.
I don't like you or anything, Arnold. Yes.
I love how far they would take it so many times. You're just like, oh, God, Arnold, you're so stupid. Turn away. Oh, well, of course he would care about it. He cares about everyone. I simply cannot tell him, though. Oh.
I was reminded the most of Hey Arnold in recent years when I would make fun of a terrible conservative person online, and they would send me as replies the Helga memes, like, you're so obsessed.
Oh,
That sounds like...
I've never even seen those.
Yeah,
That's weird.
yeah.
I had to, yes, yeah.
Did they like Photoshop your face on like the Arnold locket?
They didn't go that far, but I heard a lot of Helga references in that time
How
period of my
bizarre.
life. Yeah, it's like, I'm making fun of your opinions. I'm not obsessed with you. You're just hilarious.
Francesca Marie Smith was the voice actress for her, and actually still was. She can still do her Helga voice and did her in the Jungle movie
Okay,
too.
cool.
Wow, she's got to be like 30 now.
Yeah.
Well, in one of a recent interviews, she talked about how like she still thinks they're funny and all that, but she thinks they maybe for comedy's sake went a little too far with her obsession jokes and she feels that they were maybe mocking people with OCD, perhaps, and other. But I mean, the jokes that show how far her obsession went. She collects all of his gum, his used gum, and turns that into a monument to Arnold. It's a bit much, yeah.
In the 90s, I think the idea of a stalker was new, so it was funny.
Yeah.
There's lots of stalker
What if
jokes.
the
But I
joke-
mean, also she's a little
yeah,
girl,
it's
so
also-
it's not as like creepy because she's just it's like
Yeah.
any little girl and they're obsessed with like a celebrity or whatever.
If it was a
more
boy,
imaginary.
yeah. If it was a boy character, it would not sit right. But it's a girl, so it's less harmful.
Less malicious.
Also, she would always punch another boy in the face who was stalking her back, Wheezy.
Brainy.
Brainy,
voiced by Craig Bartlett.
That's
himself.
right. Yes, yeah. But the show debuted in earnest October 7th, 1996, and it would have a really weird broadcast schedule too. Like they did 100 episodes that aired over 8 years. The last episode aired in 2004.
That's crazy.
Right, yeah, it's 5 seasons and 8 years, which is a weird math there.
Which, like, I think if they'd have done it faster, they wouldn't have had like 5 Arnolds, because if they had I think they had such big breaks in production between seasons that's when the Arnolds would age.
Yeah.
And so they were just kind
they
of
all kept
screwed.
going through puberty and they're like,
What
I'm
happened?
sorry.
Where did all the old Arnolds go?
Well, Bartlett would often the Arnolds would be recast in a newer role. Like the first Arnold played a different character after playing Arnold in the show.
Okay. Yeah, well, it's funny. I never really paid attention to the voice changes, and I definitely didn't notice it when I watched it when I was younger.
I would notice it a little. By the third Arnold, I was like, it's a little different now.
This is OG Arnold, though, right? In this one?
This is first
this is
casting
first
Arnold,
season. So.
Yeah.
Like you said, he wanted to do the Peanuts thing too, of casting real kids as the voice actors, which is good because you get kind of like, sometimes you get theater kids who are good actors and sometimes you get like bad actors, but they're realistic in how kids are bad actors.
Yeah. No, I think it all plays really well. And then obviously we kind of mentioned the supporting cast of adults. You get like Dan Castellaneta as his grandpa and Tress MacNeille as his grandma. And then also in these episodes we also have Maurice LaMarche as Big Bob.
yeah.
The greatest. Loved him in this. Yeah.
And Kath Soucie as his wife Miriam. So
Yeah.
we get it's you get a really kind of interesting mixture of voice actors, of professionals and amateurs and kids and adults, and I think it does give it that really kind of unique feeling that it has.
Dan Castellaneta is so great here because he's nice Abe Simpson.
Yeah, that's true.
Right, he
That
gets to
is
play a
true.
nice old person.
But it's still the same kind of like, he's still jokey too.
It's a real good codger voice. He's a codger.
And again, like Tress McNeil plays the grandmother very well, but it is also kind of a sad humor thing of like, well, she's also lost her mind.
Is that the joke with the grandmother? She has like severe dementia.
Well, I mean,
Or she's very eccentric.
I
So
think
they
it's
play
more
it both
eccentricity.
ways.
Like more of a Franklin Sherman style thing.
because it's fun. It's never like, oh, my grandma's crazy and I'm sad.
I think there's one episode where they have to count on grandma to not be crazy, and she kind of still acts weird.
I don't know.
But no, you're right. It's not sad. She's just fun.
Right.
She's
I
fun.
mean, I have like a pretty wacky grandma, so I
I
can
see.
appreciate it.
And there's also a ton of really cool voice guest actors too. A lot of people who are like character actors in live action or professional musicians. Dan Butler is Mr. Simmons. The amazing Mr. Simmons too is a live action Mr. Simmons. They just drew him, and he is an openly gay man who most famously played Bulldog on Frasier.
Oh, that guy. Okay, yeah.
And he was out at the time, which like
He was like the one of 3 gay celebrities that you knew about in the 90s, like him, Harvey Firestein, and somebody else.
Ellen.
I mean, gay men.
Oh, gay man.
Yeah.
Yeah, even rare. Yes, yeah. Scott Thompson. That would be the
Scott
third.
Thompson, yeah, all 3. They're there.
So yeah, there was him. There was Lou Rawls, who played Harvey the mailman. We heard his voice in the Garfield
right.
Halloween special.
He likes singing about Garfield.
Actors like Ron Perlman, Julia Louis-Dreyfus. Also, even the best thing I've seen John Belushi in is his voice acting on this, where he plays the a-hole gym teacher who's just like, I don't know,
yeah.
man, Arnold, I'm trying. Give me a break.
Yeah. That's great.
And of course, this episode's guest, which we'll talk about when we talk more about Pigeon Man, but Vincent Schiavelli, amazing,
Yeah.
such a great guest voice. And also behind the scenes, there was a lot of great animation vets helping out Bartlett. There were great writers like Joseph Purdy, who wrote the Pigeon Man episode of this and has written more Arnold episodes than anybody other than Craig Bartlett in the credits, and who was still working with him on the Jungle movie too. Plus tons of folks who had worked on other animated series that folks might recognize, like Steve Soki, Tuck Tucker, Dan Puvenmeyer, and Christine Kolosov, which Dan Puvenmeyer, for example, he co-created Phineas and Ferb.
Yep, that's right.
With Jeff Swampy Marsh. And the first season, the production was handled at Games Animation. For the second season and all forward, Craig Bartlett made his own production studio called Sneeush, which you can remember that Sneeush at the end of the credits.
Ah, okay.
And overseas, the animation was handled by the South Korean studio Seiram. They who handle a ton of shows. Also, I'd be remiss not to mention the jazz composer Jim Lang, who did all of the music for
Yeah,
the
I
show.
was gonna mention it has a really, really distinctive sound. Especially, I mean, Jim Lang didn't really like. This is what he's known for, and this show definitely has a really distinctive sound. And they use like, I don't know how to say, like kind of they'll use music instead of sound effects a lot. Like things will kind of have like these weird warpy sounds, or there's a lot of like sounds to represent emotion, like surprise and stuff, and it'll just put like a funny sound effect. But yeah, and also too, like a lot of episodes have montages that are silent except for just kind of this music that Jim Lang composes. And so yeah, the music of the show I think is really special and distinct.
It's very moody.
Yeah.
Especially in the Pigeon Man one we're going to talk about soon.
Yeah.
Yeah, most of his music is more about creating a vibe or a feel of the world.
Yeah,
that
it's very
Arnold
like
is in.
atmospheric, ambiance kind of music.
And he's great, and he's worked a lot with Bartlett after
Oh yeah,
Hey
and
Arnold
like
as well.
Dinosaur Train or whatever.
Yes, I never heard of that.
I've never heard of it
It's,
either.
well, I think it's because it's like for like
It's for
babies.
preschoolers. Yeah, but it is from Jim Henson's studio.
Yeah.
I think Bartlett worked with Jim Henson's
Got some
brother
clouts.
or something on there.
I mean, if I was a child, you tell me if 4-year-old me hears the show that's about trains and dinosaurs, I'm watching that show.
I'd say
right?
all aboard the dinosaur train.
But yeah, so Hey Arnold had a very long life. I wonder too if it was like the Rugrats situation where they made only so many episodes and then it was more popular than Nick expected, so they then commissioned more after the fact. Because there's a real same too in production. If you see how the animation looks in season 1 versus season 4, so different.
Yeah.
Like there's a big digital changeover too in
Yeah.
the show too for at Seiram. And so the end of the series is actually really complicated behind the scenes production stuff because so they're working on the final season. They're making a TV movie, Hey Arnold the movie. They're going to put it on TV. Nickelodeon decides they want to release it in theaters as the Hey Arnold movie. It sounds like a good thing, right? When it comes out in theaters, it is a flop. It doesn't get a big turnout of people. It is considered a failure. So now Nickelodeon, with a failure of a film that they didn't even want at first to put in the theater, they've decided, well, no more Hey Arnold. We're not going to make it. But unfortunately, production-wise, Craig Bartlett is already working on the movie that will follow Hey Arnold the movie. He makes what will be the final episode of the series, which is all about setting up the Jungle movie.
Right.
It creates a gigantic cliffhanger the show never had. So Arnold is an orphan. They had a Parents' Day episode that was like a very special episode of Arnold that in that one, there were no real fantastical elements to it. It's just like, well, your parents were explorers and then they didn't come back one day. They're dead. Sorry. Like, and it was pretty much, they put a dot on it, or they put a period on the end of that sentence. They're dead. But when he does the new thing that will lead up to the Jungle movie, Arnold finds an old map. He finds their old diaries of his parents. They maybe aren't dead. Maybe they got missing in the tropical jungles. Like, we got to find them. That's the entire message of it in 2004. And then Nickelodeon's like, no Jungle movie, done. We're done.
Ooh.
Nothing, none of it. And so Arnold fans, that happens right as the internet is really coming together. So Arnold fans who are dying for resolution of Arnold's parents get to know that they almost got it and now never will.
I didn't know that about the second movie.
Yeah, that's why it came out, like 13, 14 years after
Yeah,
the series
2017.
ended?
It was released in Thanksgiving 2017. And in the years in between, Bartlett worked on a ton of shows.
Yeah.
And including creating Dinosaur Train. But one thing that he was also a bit online, like he was reachable. People contacted him. And tons of people were asking him, like, could you just tell us what happens in the Jungle movie? You've got art. Just tell us what happens. It's never going to happen. And Craig Bartlett was very helpful. He's like, I think this will be made someday. I'm not going to give it away. Here's the poster we would have made, but that's it. Like, I'm not going to do it. And he was right. Nickelodeon, it just took 13 years.
Yeah, well, I'm sure the internet probably helped a bit because it showed how excited people would be about it to have that resolution.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah.
How was it released? Just on TV?
It was on Splat. It was one of
okay.
these Splat reboot shows.
Got it. Where's that Rocco movie? Where's my
I don't
burrito?
Every time I look at that, it's still like TBD. I'm like,
It's been done for almost a year now as of this recording.
Well, we came upon that theory. I think it's true that they decided they want to make more Rocco than just the movie. And so they want the movie to then intro to the TV show.
I think it's a good idea. Based on that trailer for the movie, it looks like nothing has changed.
Yeah, I don't know. I think how often has a reboot been successful though?
Beavis and Butthead worked.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
right. One.
But
King of the Hill will work when Mike Judge runs out of ideas.
but also the Jungle movie, I won't give it away, folks, but it ends with an opening. It resolves tons of stuff, but it also ends with an opening that, like, if we did a 6th season, it could be this type thing. So I think he had similar hopes that I would think Rocco also had of, like, well, you don't just want to stop with a TV movie, right? You want us to make more of these.
It's just like, it's such a perfect like conclusion and ending though. So it's just like,
yeah, it should just be the end.
It's over. It's fine.
For Arnold, we got the Jungle movie. We got our satisfaction. We got our happy ending.
Yeah.
Like let's leave it alone.
Good.
In 2000, Craig Bartlett tried to pitch to Nickelodeon a grown-up sitcom spinoff from Arnold
Right.
Whoa.
called The Patakis. That would be a 30-minute Simpsons-style show that would age up Helga to her teens, like 15. It'd be all the other kids except for Arnold. He'd go out of town. He'd have moved out of town just so Helga could be the main character. I mean, that family really is, they're an adult sitcom. You can just be direct with her being an alcoholic kind of jokes. And you get even more dark with Big Pa.
Yeah, and there's like artwork for it and everything. Like it was an actual, a fully fledged concept, and people really like it. I think if anything, if Hey Arnold should be rebooted, it should be the Patakis because it's a cool idea, and it kind
There's
of
more stories to be told with them and their dysfunction than, Arnold's happier sixth grade, I'd say.
Right. Yeah, well, and just since you mentioned sixth graders, one thing I love about Hey Arnold is how like the fifth graders look like middle schoolers and the sixth graders look like high schoolers.
That is true. Yeah, Ruth looks quite older than the 2 years older she is of Arnold.
Yeah, and there's this one episode where they go to like a swimming pool and there are these two sixth grade girls there, and they're just like they're wearing like makeup and like earrings and everything, and they just like but it's true to how you perceived older kids when you were a little kid.
Oh yeah.
And will there be more Arnold after this? They've certainly opened the door for it, but yeah, I don't think I think we're good.
CGI reboots.
I mean, yes, that's what you do for everything. But Craig Bartlett, he's getting into his 60s now. Enjoy that you got to finish your story. No, who gets to do that?
Yeah. No, I think he's had a good run. He seems quite youthful though. He seems like he has. I have one of my friends worked on the Jungle movie, and she's worked with Craig Bartlett, and he seems like, from what I've heard from her, he seems quite genuine and quite a good person to work with. So it's nice.
Oh, and he also wrote, one of the Hey Arnold prose books they put out was co-wrote with Maggie Groening.
I saw that
Oh
too. That's so funny. How deep does this conspiracy
Maggie
go?
Groening, is that another sister?
Yeah, it's the Maggie.
I forgot about that.
Maggie Groening also.
Forgot about Maggie.
I knew about Lisa and Homer Groening. Is there a Marge Groening?
Yeah, that's his mom is Marge. And then there's Mark, because Matt and Mark are Bart together pretty much. But no, Maggie Groening actually co-wrote with Matt Groening a bunch of several Maggie baby books, like Maggie Learns to Spell. And
it's her right to write those books and profit from them.
I mean, if she just said, "Hey, do something about her spelling," she still deserves a check for that book.
Yeah. And this is all on Hulu, by the way. All of Hey Arnold is on Hulu.
Yeah, which is nice.
Yeah.
I didn't get the chance to watch all of it before this, watch all of it over again. But I think I watched through the whole series maybe 6 or 7 years ago.
Oh wow.
And it was hard to pick an episode because like I said before, there's a lot of them are really memorable, and you have so many diverse characters that it goes into. So it's definitely worth checking out, either if you're revisiting it or if you want to look at it for the first time.
Well, we'll get to the episodes you picked right after this. Welcome to the break, football head. It's Henry Gilbert.
Hey, it's Bob Mackey, and we've done a show about football heads and a show about meatball heads. So, what's next for What a Cartoon?
Spaghetti head?
I don't think so. It's too far.
Buckethead.
Buckethead.
The famous guitarist.
All right.
But hey, thanks for listening to this podcast. This week's episode was a pick of our awesome guest, Maddie, and everybody should follow her on Twitter at the letter O. That's Raspberry.
Yes.
She has tons of cool art. If you're a big fan of the anime/manga series One Piece, you'll get a ton of great stuff there.
Yeah, and she's done all of our covers to date for things like Talking Futurama, Talking of the Hill, and What a Cartoon. So the covers you see, the frame around the little screenshot is something that she made for us, and we paid her.
Yeah, so thanks so much, Maddie, for coming on, and I hope when she's done with her Japanese excursion, she'll want to come back for another podcast.
I would never come back. Just to America.
Just to America. America.
Not
not
to our podcast
What
studio.
a Cartoon is connected to America.
Yeah, it's true.
And I'm sorry for that. I apologize.
We apologize to all of our listeners.
But what we don't apologize for is the great quality of podcasts we put out every week, thanks to the support at patreon.com/Talking Simpsons.
That's right. The Talking Simpsons Network supports all of our shows and our lives. And if you sign up for $5 a month, you'll get tons and tons of bonus podcasts, exclusive series like Talking Futurama, Talking Critic, and the upcoming Talk King of the Hill, where we'll go through the entire first season of King of the Hill with our Talking Simpsons / What a Cartoon treatment. I know you can't wait for it. It's only on the Patreon, only for patrons.
Yeah, and that $5 a month will get you all that. Plus, you can hear next week's episode of What a Cartoon right now, where me and Bob will talk about the amazing world of Gumball. You could do the same for next week's episode of Talking Simpsons. You could hear it right now. And a ton of interviews we did with folks who have worked in the animation industry. They all are super awesome to hear, those classic interviews at patreon.com/Talking Simpsons.
And if you want to subscribe at the $10 level, if you're a big spender, we have a monthly movie podcast called What a Cartoon Movie that we started in November that replaced the video tier. All of those videos are still on there. You can watch a ton of videos from the first 18 months of our Patreon. We've moved on to doing movie-length podcasts. Sorry, no, actually, they're double the length of the movies we're doing. So our Akira podcast that we did last month is 3 hours long. A 3-hour-long discussion of Akira, and every second counts.
Every single I mean, they spent that much time drawing it. We owed it to them to speak about it that long. And I mean, I think it's our premium podcast, and I think we put in a premium amount of effort, and you get your money's worth and then some.
Mm-hmm.
So if you were to up your pledge now, you'd get to hear our 3 hours of Akira, our 2.5 hours talking about Kiki's Delivery Service. I believe over 2 hours doing Batman Mask of the Phantasm, and there's going to be another really cool one in February this month too, that only subscribers at patreon.com/Talking Simpsons can vote for.
So again, that is patreon.com/Talking Simpsons. Check it out. We'll let you get back to Hey Arnold.
Big Bob Pataki, the Beeper King. Remember, we'll beat any advertised price unless it's lower. Come on down to our Beeper Emporium this Saturday for our annual spelling bee sale. If my daughter Helga doesn't win the contest, you get your first beeper free. And remember,
Big Bob's Beepers!
Meet Arnold, a regular ordinary kid just like you. His school is run by a bully who's also in love with him.
It's love, love, love!
He lives with his grandparents in a boarding house full of crazies. He's got a remote control for his whole room. And he has a football-shaped head. Just like you, right? Look for Hey Arnold on home video, only from Nickelodeon. Even if you don't have a football-shaped head.
here we go.
Hey, Arnold!
I'm really glad you picked these episodes, Maddie, Pigeon Man, and Spelling Bee, because we get one really, really great, like classic Arnold episode. And then we also get a normal one that, though, has a lot of the hallmarks of what I loved about the series, too.
Yeah. I think it's hard for me to pick a favorite, but I think Pigeon Man I generally think of as my favorite episode. And yeah, it just happened to come with Spelling Bee, so you kind of get a little bit of both sides of Hey Arnold. But it is a season 1 episode, so, you know, it has kind of the general season 1 things you get with any show, where it's maybe things aren't quite as developed as they will be in later seasons. But
sometimes a little slower.
Yeah, but I think you still get a lot of the hallmarks that, you know, make up Hey Arnold.
Are you sure you didn't pick this because of the pro-bird propaganda?
I was thinking about that when I was watching this. I was like, oh man, Bob's going to be so happy. They love birds in this.
I was upset because I was thinking they better not hurt that pigeon. But no pigeons were harmed in the filming of this episode.
And the opening animation of Hey Arnold it's a fun theme, and you get to see the kids marching through the streets, though it presents more of like a division of genders than the show gives you, though.
It's Sharks versus the Jets opening here.
But it's like girls on one side, boys on the other. And also Sharks versus Jets. Yeah. It also lets you know like how important Helga is, because she speaks. She's the only speaking person in the opening.
Right.
If this had been up to me, I really do like Helga on the couch, even though that is a Helga-centric episode and not really it's one of my favorite episodes of the series, but not exactly. It's not the first episode of Arnold I'd tell people to watch.
Right.
So.
Yeah. It's hard to pick because there's a lot of good episodes, and they spend a lot of episodes going into various characters. Like pretty much every single character in the show has at least 1 or 2 episodes about them.
And the first gag of the episode is a very original kind of Arnold joke, like early Arnold of he's daydreaming and a teacher or an authority figure brings him back to reality.
That means you and Helga are the best spellers in school. The citywide spelling bee is on Saturday, and there's a $500 prize. So good luck to you two. And Helga, don't spend all that money in one place.
I won't, Miss Slovak. I'll win, just like I'm supposed to.
Good girl. One last announcement. They're conducting some very dangerous asbestos tests this weekend. So when you come to class on Monday, it's very, very important that you all
Good luck tomorrow, Helga. Yeah, right. Just get ready to lose your butt. If only my love could know the torment of my soul.
Man, like in the 90s and like the early 2000s, asbestos jokes ran like rampant. I think of this. I think of Simpsons. More asbestos.
This felt like a real Simpsons-y joke.
Yeah, but also Home Movies has asbestos jokes as well.
We were still getting rid of all that asbestos in the 90s.
So it's like
Kids, you're finally free of it. But I was shocked to see Miss Slovak again in here. Like they were clear in one of the interviews, Craig Bartlett was very clear of like Miss Slovak was just a very like kind of broad character. They wanted a realer character who actually cared about the kids.
Yeah, she's a very generic teacher. So obviously when they introduce Mr. Simmons in the next season, it's like, okay, yeah, this feels like Arnold's teacher.
Tress, I think, does a really good job playing her, but it's a very like typical wacky teacher voice. Like,
there's only so much you can do with it.
And I mean, it's right out of her Animaniacs, like random Animaniacs character voice. Yeah. The opening of them spelling together too, you get to see that like Helga is the smartest in her class, and also is pushed to success for some unknown reason. But I love too though. There's a great little gag of like Slovak's just like, oh well, you're winning, Helga, and then the way Arnold just gives her a look of like, hey. So, spelling bees, did either of you do them?
Oh, I was a champion speller.
Whoa.
And the secret is just reading a lot of books.
Yeah.
That's really what it is. That's how you cheat.
I feel like I remember doing the preliminary spelling bees, and I think I might have got accepted, but I was like, I don't want to spell on stage in front of a bunch of people. So I never would have gone to like the actual championship.
I think our school didn't have time to have spelling bees, as it were, to have a bee for spelling. So we took a written test, and the people who got the top ones in the class would go on to the finals, and I was always like number 2 or number 3.
Nice.
But again, it's all reading. I read a lot of books, but now
nerd.
I was a nerd. And now I wonder, I don't think spelling is a thing, because now no matter what you're using to type words into, it will tell you immediately like, hey, that's wrong. That's wrong. It's not spelled right.
But what about like words? I don't know, like using the wrong form of there or something.
Oh,
like
no
that.
one will ever learn that correctly. There's no way to teach that.
It's a mystery.
We still don't know.
But now it's like, I wonder, will we have to learn how to write in the future? Because now if you have Gmail, it's just like, let me write this for you, buddy. I know what you're going to say. And usually...
all those suggestions at the
Yeah.
bottom. I love it. No, but I love when I have been like writing to like my Japanese teachers. And so like the suggestions are like, arigato gozaimasu. I'm like, thanks, Google.
Not even like the 3 sort of like BioWare choices you're given. I'm talking about when you're typing in Gmail, it'll have in the front of the words you're typing in gray what it
Like
thinks
a
you're going to say
whole-
next.
so
Yeah.
It finishes your sentence for you, and if you just hit tab, it's like, it is. You do think that's basically what I was going to say. Yeah, sure. I was going to say awesome, thanks. Hey, would you want to meet tomorrow? Well, I actually did go through this pretty much similar spelling bee thing as in this episode. I would have loved to have a written test like that, Bob, because you don't have the pressure of being in front of others. I did win for my class in the classroom level, like at the start of this episode.
Oh.
Then the next stage was to win for your grade in the school, and then the winner of that goes on to like the regional or whatever. So I go to the one for my grade. That's when I was on stage in the auditorium in front of all the other classes in my grade, and that's when the pressure really came on. And let me tell you, when you misspell a word, it sticks with you forever, and you never forget it, and it's not fun.
Can you share that with us?
What was the word?
Yeah.
Well, it's embarrassing, but it's finally, because I spelled it with only one L instead of two.
It's a tricky one.
And so I got to feel utter humiliation in front of everyone in my class, and they got to cry in front of all of them afterwards. So that was a lot of fun.
Poor baby Henry.
Look, yeah, I know. It
and
happens.
everybody remembers, and they all tell their friends that story, even to this day.
No, I know it's probably nothing to them, but it sticks with you forever, and that's why it's like it is hard. I've watched some spelling bee clips. I think I've watched there was a spelling bee documentary in the last like 20 years.
Oh
I
yeah,
watched
you're
too.
right.
But like those kids are destroyed by it. Only
Yeah.
one can win.
I
Like,
mean it's rough, and anything like kind of crazy pressure put on kids is just not good.
and especially when like some of these kids want to do it, but not all of them.
Not most of them.
Not most.
Usually the ones or that get to
They
that.
have a big Bob in their life telling them. to
Yeah,
do it.
once you start getting like to that level, it's like crazy parents who like just make their kids study for 4 hours
Yeah.
a day, and it's like it's all for like the parents and not the kids anymore.
It's sad that can even happen in nerd sports, just the same like Little League or Pee Wee football.
Mathletes. I don't know. I think it's all on YouTube, but I have to recommend look up the episodes of Cheap Seats, the Sklar brothers riffing on ESPN classic footage show. Have you seen that before?
Oh, yeah, but I
Yeah.
haven't seen they did one for spelling
They did a
bees?
bunch of spelling bees, and
Oh,
they're
wow.
all really funny. Like the most precocious nerd kids on stage. They did at least 2 spelling bee episodes
Oh,
of Cheap
man.
Seats. It's really
Those
good.
Poor children.
Yeah.
I mean, well, they also you feel so good for the winner, but all the other kids who lose, they are destroyed.
Yeah.
I looked this up. There's one of the secrets is called the comfort room, which is just like they get you off stage as fast as possible, and they're like, if you need to cry, this is a private room for all that. Like and there's also at least one kid who passed out on stage just from the pressure.
Yeah.
It finally will stick with me till I am dead. That word.
And then when you die, you'll say, finally.
Put it on my grave with only one L.
So as Craig Bartlett said, he wanted Helga to love Arnold so the audience would learn to love Arnold too.
Interesting.
If you see Helga describe how Arnold is so caring and loving and sweet and creative, it makes the audience like him too. It's a sneaky trick on their
Yeah,
part.
but it's nice, right? Because they're all positive traits.
Yeah.
So.
No, you want Arnold of lead characters in kids shows. Like Arnold is a very good aspirational one to be. Like he's very active. He barely watches television or anything,
Right.
and his dreams are often like driven by creativity. you
Yeah,
know?
he's creative.
yeah.
Like, I mean, kind of the plot of like half the episodes is Arnold trying to help someone. So.
He's way better than Doug.
Well, we were all Doug.
I know.
So that's why I don't like him either. But yes, Helga and Arnold both want to win.
Yeah. The Tone Master 2000. 5 octaves, 800 megabytes of music storage,
Ooh.
and over 250 pre-programmed instruments. It's only $499.95. You'd even have change left over. You're right, Gerald. I'm gonna win that spelling bee no matter what. Now you're talking, man.
This is terrible. If I win, I lose. If I lose, I lose. I should be happy, but I'm not. There's nobody on the planet with worse luck than me.
800 megs of storage.
I
800
know.
megs,
Wow,
yeah.
that's amazing.
In 96, an impressive amount of storage. Sure, but that his dream, they could have given a lot of things that would be his dream of $500.
Right, video game system.
Yeah, that's what most
Yeah.
kids, that's what I'd have
Right.
dreamed of.
Actually,
for
I think
sure.
our family computer at the time had a 1.6 gigabyte hard drive.
Whoa.
Yeah.
It's too much.
You're living in the future,
I
man.
know. I think that's what my sister always talks about when we got our first like gig of space. And it was like, how will we ever fill this up? It's too much space.
A gig.
I think a gigabyte was like the magical amount of space in like Johnny Mnemonic. Too.
Yeah.
Like a whole gig. And then he's like a synthesizer. That's what he dreams about because he wants to write music. Like
Right.
that's a touching thing. And that was a moment too that made me think that this was intentionally set in Oregon too, because when they say like, "Oh, you have change left over," because there's no sales tax.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Interesting.
Okay.
I didn't think about that, but
Yeah.
it's true.
Or it could
Whole
be
nickel.
or it could be that Gerald thinks that isn't thinking about sales tax.
Yeah, it works either way.
And I like that Gerald is so supportive, but not so supportive that he would go. He's like, I'm not wasting my Saturday at a spelling bee. Though he doesn't mean that.
Yeah,
He's a
he
good
does
friend.
show up.
For snacks.
But I love a good Eugene accident, though this one doesn't have him saying I'm okay afterwards.
Yeah, I guess
don't like
maybe he didn't get that until like the second season.
Is that a
I don't
running
know.
joke with this character?
Yeah, Eugene
Okay.
is like the clumsy character who, like, the plot of basically any episode he's in is him getting injured.
He's a massive dork who always gets injured.
Yeah.
Like, and he's one of my favorites, funniest ones is when Arnold wants to help him have a good day.
Oh
Like,
yeah, and he
wants-
just like keeps screwing everything up. Yeah,
like
it's-
the universe just wants to destroy his life.
yeah, and then it's funny because Eugene thinks that Arnold's bad luck. He's like, "Stay away from me." But yeah, no. But the nice thing about Eugene is he's, even though like all this stuff happens to him, he's super, super optimistic always.
I also, as a kid, I read Eugene as slightly gay too, but maybe he's just like an effeminate nerd. Like it's hard to tell.
Yeah.
Also, I mean, he's a kid. Like who
Right.
knows what he is. So we get to see what makes Helga tick in this. So he does appear in one previous episode to this, but he's just like he's a dick driving Winnebago. This is really the true introduction of Big Bob.
Back to work. Next word is clavichord.
Please, Dad. I'm so tired.
Hey. Your sister Olga could spell that word when she was 5. And what are you now? 6? 7?
9, Dad.
Whatever. Point is, you're a Pataki. And Patakis are winners, right?
Yes, Dad.
I remember the first time your sister Olga won the city spelling bee. It was the greatest moment of her life. She was so happy. I'll never forget when she got that final word. Qualm. Q-U-A-L-M. Qualm. The L was practically silent, but she nailed it. She nailed that L.
Please, Dad. I've heard this story a million times.
And you know why? Because it was a Pataki moment, that's why. She won that trophy, and then she won another, and another, and soon this whole room was full of trophies. But I saved a spot for you, right there, behind that little one in the back row. See it?
Sorta.
Well, it's there, and all you gotta do is win. You hear me? Win, win, win!
Okay, Dad. I'll do my best.
Marissa Marsh is great. He comes back a
Yeah.
bunch then as this character?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. He's a reoccurring character, the Beeper King.
Big Bob, boy,
Bob.
he's a lot.
Did he transition away from beepers later in the series?
In the Jungle movie, I think there's like a joke about it, and he goes
Okay.
to cell phones or something.
They had to update that. But yeah,
Yeah.
Smartphone king.
actually, him being a beeper salesman was a major part of Hey Arnold, the movie too.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So in this scene, you see a picture of Olga, Helga's sister, but like the character design hadn't been like finalized, so it just looks like this weird kind of like other version of Helga.
Yeah.
But in later episodes, we'll get to meet Olga, and she'll come back.
Yeah, actually, Olga appears in the next episode.
Oh, really?
In
Okay.
air order, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. No, it's a little off of Olga. Like they hadn't really decided. Well, it's also like Miss Slovak will change after this episode too. They hadn't settled on a lot of stuff, but they had settled on Big Bob. Like he has Helga's droopy, weird ears, and he's just this overbearing, narcissistic monster who constantly talks at his children and makes them feel awful with no understanding or empathy of somebody else, which is certainly not identifiable to me at all. Has nothing to do with my life, certainly not. But no, this was when these jokes came in, or story points. This is when Helga became my favorite character on the show, because I was like, yeah, I identify with her more than Arnold.
Right.
I mean, that's just the way. Poor Helga, just the way she's like just so beaten down and just like, I will, Dad, I will. Like this is not the angry, lively Helga we see often.
Yeah.
she's just beaten down. And it's sad. It's sad that, and she's just had to hear this story a million times from Bob, who, like, on top of that, Big Bob is seems like a pretty horrible husband too.
Yeah. I mean, you just the pairing of the two parents is pretty fantastically bad.
Yeah, that Miriam just shut down at some point.
Yeah.
And just day drunk all the time. That Helga has to be surrounded by the trophies of Olga all the time too.
Right, yeah, and constantly they always call her Olga and basically completely lives in the shadow of her older successful sister.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. And these are two major character things for Helga introduced in the Spelling Bee episode as well. And I do love the delivery though of the line of like the L was practically silent. And this narcissistic parenting thing also is interesting to me because it was kind of a big part of the season finale Steven Universe that just aired too. It's won't spoil more of it for you guys, but I was just thinking, I honestly was thinking a lot of Big Bob when a villain was introduced into Steven Universe too. Surprising similarities between him and this space monster. All right, meanwhile, we get to see what kind of they pair these scenes together to let you see that Arnold actually has a much better home life.
Right.
Hey, what's bugging you, short man?
I don't know, Grandpa. It's just, I don't think I have a chance to win this thing tomorrow.
Oh, now listen, boy. You know your grandma and me will be proud of you no matter how good you do. You don't have to prove anything to us.
I know.
You're just as smart as any kid there. The only thing that can beat you is your attitude.
You're right, Grandpa. All I have to do is think positive. Here, ask me a word, any word.
Okay, here's one. Onomatopoeia. Like I said, Arnold, we'll be proud of you no matter what.
That's a Dan voice I've never heard before, on The Simpsons at least.
Yeah, yeah. It's
another old man.
Yeah, a different kind of old man.
A happier old man. I'm sure it's I'm sure it's some dead comedian from 1930.
It's got to be an impression of someone we don't know.
But it's really good, and it shows the kind of just friendly, happy life that Arnold has, despite, the tragedy of growing up without his parents, of losing both of his parents at a young age. Like he's got the support of his, grandparents and also the surrogate family all around him.
Yeah,
that really helps him.
I think there's quite a few episodes that kind of center on that. It's like Arnold's like, oh, my family is weird and wacky. Like we talked about the Parents' Day episode and things like that. But it's like, well, even though they're a bunch of dorks, they're still my family. So
and it shows the nurturing life that Arnold grew up in. Unlike unlike Helga's life.
Right.
And so we get to the spelling bee. It goes by almost too fast. I didn't catch it until this viewing.
Oh, the sign.
Sign gag,
Welcome, Spielers.
Spelling bee.
That's pretty funny. That's cute. And then Helga is given literal baggage of her sister to wear around her neck, just to remind her she's not Olga. Like that's pretty harsh for her. We see the lineup of kids too on the stage, and they're just a bunch of weirdos. It's such odd
kind of
design.
nerds would be in a spelling bee.
Well, they're just like Craig Bartlett oddball designs too.
Yeah, no, they're good.
Just misshapen heads all around.
Yeah, just weird blobby characters.
And they're all being destroyed as they get letters wrong. Big Bob is laughing it up as it seems like Helga's got this one in the bag. And then we're just left to 3 kids.
Pasquinade. Pasquinade.
That is right.
Oops. Seymour. You there? Did you get Pasquinade?
Heinz.
No! I'm just a pawn in a crap game! I'm innocent! Innocent, I tell ya! Innocent!
So he had an earpiece.
Yeah.
And by the way, a pasquinade is a satire or lampoon usually delivered in a public space.
Okay.
You will never use that word in your life.
Nor spell it.
I love the secret sinisterness of the spelling bee there too. He just pulls him away. Though this moves a lot speedier than real life spelling bees if you've watched them.
God.
They take forever.
Yeah.
Death.
Well, so look, if you're a nervous kid, the last thing you want to do is misspell it. So you have to think about how to spell it for 10 to 15 minutes and just constantly ask place of origin, use it in a sentence, like
Yeah,
the
they
ways.
put off spelling it for so long, and I like the little detail of them closing their eyes while they spell it, because you see that at the spelling bees in real life.
Yeah, you want to see the letters in front of your face. I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not just to buy time. Asking place of origin is part of the trick of like language of origin then tells you where a P or an F will be used,
God,
perhaps.
That's awful. Poor children.
Yeah, they should be reading real books or having, I don't know, doing something.
Enjoying their childhood.
That too.
Though they do get a little more money than $500. They do. They'll also not. That's actually a weird thing too. They're handing him just straight up money, which you get like. They make, in my experience on those shows, I think it is the spelling bee more gives out scholarship.
Scholarship money.
college.
Yeah, book money or whatever.
Book money, which
Yeah,
is like,
right.
it's like, I got all the
$500. Oh, good. I can buy 2 textbooks.
Also, I wouldn't want to read anything ever again after memorizing 80 dictionaries.
God, yeah.
So it comes down after your Seymour is taken out. It comes down to Arnold and Helga, and that's when Arnold gets a deal with the devil offered to him.
If you lose, you win. If you try to win, you'll probably lose. So get out there and lose like a winner.
Hey, what were you talking to my dad about?
If you lose, you win.
Toon Master 2000.
All right, Arnold, you're next. Your word is onomatopoeia.
Onomatopoeia.
We forgot to mention that there are beepers on the line.
Oh, yes.
Oh,
yeah.
right. Yeah, that's the whole reason.
Yeah, Bob openly advertised that if Helga does not win the spelling bee, customers will get their first beeper free.
Wow, that's amazing.
That's the only beeper you need to, like,
Yeah.
I'd say your first one. Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's Bob's fault. It's Big Bob's fault. I feel bad saying, like, all these negative things about Bob, so I want to
I'm
say
sitting
Big Bob.
right here.
It's Big Bob's fault that he's in this mess in the first place. Like, he didn't need to
Right.
promise things based on Helga's performance.
I do like how Bob's speech reflects Helga's earlier in the episode when she says, if I win, I lose. If I lose, I lose. Then we get like Bob saying like
Yeah.
a similar thing. Yeah.
That is really good. I like his speech. It's a very good, attractive speech I would have been convinced of, like, if all I want is $500, I'll just,
Right.
why don't I just take $500 sure dollars right now and not win? Who
Right.
cares? I might lose anyway. Like, that really did. That line stuck with me a lot too, because I do think that pessimistically of like, but what if I do lose? Then I don't even get $500 and I didn't even make the deal. So I do think, like, if you try to win, you'll probably lose.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, he's right. But Big Bob is
Getting
right.
in his head.
I mean, that's why he's extra evil. Like,
Yeah, right.
To do that to a child. Again, this is a 9-year-old he's doing
Yeah.
this to. And in Arnold's vision of his jazz playing, on his piano is Ruth, his crush
Right.
of season 1.
Okay.
She'll be replaced by the aforementioned poor girl Leela later, which is more age appropriate for him. And that creates...
2 years age difference.
Yes.
What is this?
Too much.
I think they just found there's not a lot of funny things to do with Ruth. She's just kind of boring. There's also a great little visual gag where you see that the grandma was wearing a full Centurion outfit under her
her
coat.
fur coat. Yeah, I noticed that too. And also just like Gerald's various snacks. She has like a bowl of popcorn with like 2 sodas in it, and it just kind of like morphs throughout the whole thing.
His first question is like, "Where's the snacks?" Like, Gerald has a healthy appetite.
Yes.
That is for sure.
He's a growing boy.
As whose voice will even change over the course of the series.
Yes.
He was voiced by Jamil Walker Smith, who our generation from TGIF would know as the youngest brother on Sister Sister.
Oh, okay.
And he would go on to...
You mean smart guy?
Yeah, oh yeah, he's also smart.
He's also smart guy.
I'm more of a sister guy. But yes, that's what he's known from. And he, even though his voice changed, actually just pitch shifted down.
Okay,
his
well
voice,
they did an
pitched up his-
episode about when Gerald's voice changes. So I wonder if that was like actually happening.
Yes, yeah.
the
That
time.
was, I think it was. And then they just for that episode, they got more into his real voice, and then in future appearances, they would just shift him up, pitch him up.
Yeah.
It's on Steven Universe, they had a similar situation too, where in between seasons, the voice actor Zach Callison aged and sounded different, and so he just had to he's a great singer and voice actor, and so he just retaught his voice to sound as much like his child voice as he could.
That's amazing.
Arnold throws away the money. He doesn't want this offer. He wants to win. And so Helga, when she sees the offer that was made, like, Big Bob really should not have signed that check. He left a paper trail there with his bribery. That was his one major mistake. And Helga's reaction is pretty great to it.
I can't believe it. He didn't think I could do it on my own.
All right, Helga, you're next. And your word is qualm.
Qualm? She's heard that story 1,000,000 times. She's got it. She's got it.
Let's see. Qualm. Q-U-A-L.
You got it.
X.
What?
That is incorrect. Arnold is the new champion.
How could you miss qualm? We just talked about it last night.
Did we?
What do you mean, did we? I've told that story 1,000,000 times.
Oh, yeah. I guess I just forgot.
Turning the tables on Big Bob.
Boom.
I definitely, this episode, if nothing else, taught me how to spell qualm.
Yeah.
I like that Big Bob gets his comeuppance here too. At least he gets before he can. I feel like in a more realistic world, it would have just been him screaming at Helga the entire ride home. But, but since he gets chased off by a beeper hungry Bob,
I love the people going after him for the beepers. They yell, they go, "Hey, it's Bob! His kid lost!"
And I think he probably did put a disclaimer on the TV too.
Yeah. And hey, by losing, she won. So.
She did. That's right. Wow. So a good little episode. I feel like every kids show, if it takes place in school, there's a spelling bee episode.
Yeah.
I think pretty much all of them.
Spelling day episode, career aptitude episode.
Yeah.
I mean, spelling bees are perfect drama. Like, it's so easy to write that.
Yeah.
It's a great story to tell.
If you have kids, tell us if they still have spelling tests. I really want to know that.
All right, well, now it's time for the main event, though. Pigeon Man. The Pigeon Man episode, written by Joseph Purdy, who has written many Hey Arnold scripts, returned for the movie. One of the best writers on the show, consistently great. If you just look at his credits, the episodes he wrote, some of my favorites, some of the best Hey Arnold episodes. And this one also has an even slower kind of quiet opening that they really take their time with. Actually, it kind of starts with the skyline, which is good because it's going to end with the skyline, too.
It's true, yeah.
We get to see Arnold hanging out with his pigeons.
Good, very nice. Here you go, Lester. Good boy, Fester. Eat up, Chester. You got a long trip ahead of you. Hey, Chester, what's the matter? You haven't eaten all your dinner. Must not be hungry. You remember where Gerald lives? Do you remember who Gerald is? Good. Fly this to Gerald, okay? Take your time, Chester. Pace yourself. Maybe I should have sent Fester.
I was very sad when I saw the sick bird.
Where
is this going?
This isn't going to end well.
Where is this going? Let me know.
Yeah.
No, I have a parrot, by the way, and I love birds. And I like pigeons a lot, too.
You're a pro pigeon man.
Yeah.
Arnold is a bird boy, and he raises carrier pigeons.
Which are extinct.
Right.
They don't really...
I think they went extinct in the 30s or 40s?
They were killed by war. They were used in war, and so they were all killed by it. But I think, Bob, was it you that I've heard say that if you consider pigeons cute instead of gross, that it makes a city amazing.
Full of cute birds, yeah.
It's like, what if bunnies were everywhere?
A lot of city pigeons are pretty cute because they're really fat.
Yeah.
So they're just these balls of bird.
The Berkeley ones are, we live in Berkeley and not San Francisco. The San Francisco ones are a little dirtier. They're usually missing a foot or two. In Berkeley, they're a lot cleaner.
Yeah, it's my happier pigeons we get here.
Yeah.
And this is another of these very like urban stories you can only really tell in Hey Arnold. Like Tommy Pickles can't hang out with pigeons on city
He's just
rooftops.
a stupid baby.
Dumb baby. I forgot to say this earlier. Helga's Angelica. They're the same. They are very much the same, except Angelica learned more emotions than just narcissism herself.
Yeah.
That's the one difference between them. Though I agree, like Helga's bad here, and kids aren't supposed to be like Helga, but I really do like Angelica. There's babies are frustrated.
Dumb babies.
But yeah, I like seeing Arnold as such a caring kid that he's got a few pigeons he takes care of.
Yeah.
Though he should know Chester. Something's not right with Chester. I guess he's 9,
he's
in
9.
this thing.
Yeah, no, it's nice having, a role model like Arnold for kids.
He's got a hobby that involves caring for things and helping animals instead of just, again, playing video games, which is all I did when the show existed.
All I did was watch Hey Arnold when I was a kid.
And think to myself, like, boy, it'd be cool to rage pigeons. Anyway,
back to the wall.
Back to the wall. So they then cut back to Arnold and the kids. They're hanging out, waiting for Gerald to show up because, as Helga points out, he should just call Gerald. But it is more fun to send a pigeon.
That's true.
Helga's just a jerk in this one. There's no moment in this one of her revealing she actually loves Arnold.
Right.
She's just mean. Gerald arrives a little late, and he's got some bad news for Arnold.
Hey, Arnold. Man, I think that something is seriously wrong with Chester. Chester!
Look out, here it comes! Nice grab, Arnold. Arnold, I think this is serious. Your pigeon looks terrible.
He's still breathing. I gotta do something for him.
Oh, come on. It's just a dumb bird.
I think I'm gonna have to take him to the vet or something.
Well, why didn't you just take him to the Pigeon Man? Pigeon Man? Sid, are you crazy?
The Pigeon Man?
The first mention of the Pigeon Man.
Helga is definitely the negative example.
Yeah, what
here.
the heck, Helga?
Just a dumb bird.
Future serial killer here on our hands.
I mean, if things have gone the wrong way for Helga, she's had the upbringing for it. It's true. And it's pretty lucky for Arnold that he's got a catcher's mitt too for catching poor Chester.
Well, but I mean, that's what they call Gerald over to play baseball. So
That's
they all have their
true.
mitts and their gloves ready to catch pigeons flying out of the sky.
And next we have definitely the longest clip of this episode, but we need it all to hear Gerald's recitation of the legend of the Pigeon Man, which this was a running gag on the show that Sid would set him up to tell the story of some local legend in the town. I think this might be their best of the local legends too.
Okay, Sid. Lead me in, babe.
The legend of the Pigeon Man has been handed down from kid generation to kid generation for as long as I can remember, which was about since I was 3. Take it away, Gerald.
In the Pet Shop District, there stands an old tenement, abandoned since the Great Fire of '69. After the fire, pigeons started gathering by the thousands on its charred roof. No one knew why until one day someone saw a dark figure moving among the avian multitudes. For lo, alone on the roof of that 88th Street building lived a creature, half man and half bird, known only as Pigeon Man. Some say he was hatched from an egg and left by aliens. And he had a beak and a tail. Some say he survives by eating leaves, twigs, and worms. Some say he's a guy in a chicken soup, a lonely, deranged man wanting only birds for company. Who knows? I don't. But to this day, flocks of pigeons gather on the roof. And that can only mean that someone is caring for them. Someone known as Pigeon Man. The end.
That's my boy.
So what's your point? The point is he's one crazy psychopathic freak.
You got to go see him.
Yeah, right? Go take your pigeon to this crazy man.
Well, that's also... Gerald doesn't mean to do this destructively, but I mean, these are the rumors that make people afraid of Pigeon Man and that will lead to his problems later in the episode. I mean, this is definitely Harold they make sure to let you know Harold is listening to this as much as anybody else is, and his reaction to is like, he's a freak.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he's unfortunately going to enforce order a bit later on, old Pigeon Man. But I also like Helga telling him, like, maybe you should go. You've got a lot in common with him, huh? Though that's also, a lot of these Arnold meets an outcast episodes, they're also interesting too because you get to see like Arnold see what his life could be. Like is this my future?
Yeah.
Will I be this crazy Pigeon Man?
I haven't seen a lot of Hey Arnold, but one I remember is one where he is a friend with this very sad baseball player.
Yeah.
And like he plays catch with them for the last time before they tear down a stadium or something like that. I think that's the story.
I think he's going to retire.
Yeah, something like that, where it's like it's his last chance to do something, and Arnold is taking part in it.
Or him hanging out with Rat Pack legend Dino Spumoni.
Right, yeah.
I think I have seen that one too. Okay, yeah.
Well, there's also who's kind of, I guess, like a companion to Pigeon Man. There is also Monkey Man, who is in 2 separate episodes.
He's been more trouble, that Monkey Man.
Yeah, he's another one who's this kind of weird guy who swings all over town. And
he's not as lovable as Pigeon Man, I'd say, or Stoop Kid.
Yeah. I don't know. But I still, again, like, I don't know. Like, I think the episodes with these kind of wacky outcast characters are probably my favorite of Hey Arnold in general.
And we also get a good little bold kid line. That's Gerald's catchphrase. There you go. Bold kid. Bold. Because Gerald is wise, but he also doesn't, he's like, I'm not dealing with that. Like all these kids are afraid of it, but Arnold, he's both like brave and innocent enough to think like, well, maybe he's not crazy. I want to meet him. Like he's not afraid of something or filled of like the fear of ignorance either. Like that's also another very good quality of Arnold as a person.
Yeah. It's kind of this thing that he has to see stuff for himself. He's like, okay, this is what I hear about it, but what is the truth?
That when Arnold goes in there, that place is pretty scary looking.
Yeah.
Some real Hitchcock stuff going on.
These weird bird cages.
It is the birds. Like that's all sequence there really is. I mean, also, kids, don't actually walk through an old burned out old building. You will die.
Please don't go visit weird strangers that you hear about.
I'm surprised standards and practices let them do that. Well, not even just like visit a stranger, but walk through an abandoned building. Like,
hey man, it's 1996.
But yeah, so Arnold finally gets to the top and he meets Pigeon Man for himself.
Hello? 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 Mr. Pigeon Man? Sir? Hi, I'm Arnold. I thought maybe you... This is Chester, my bird. He's pretty sick. He won't eat, can hardly fly. So, what do you think?
Come back tomorrow.
You're going to keep Chester? And cure him? So, I'll see you tomorrow. Like, around the same time? Alrighty then. Bye.
So the voice of Pigeon Man.
That is Vincent Schiavelli.
You might remember him best from Ghost. Mm-hmm. He was the one he taught Patrick Swayze how to do ghost tricks in that movie.
He was the original ghost trick.
Yeah.
No, he was the guy on the train who was young. He also, another of my favorite ones of his small parts was in, I forget which one. It was one of the Pierce Brosnan Bonds, but he was a ultimate marksman who was just like kind of like a very like mild-mannered marksman too. And
he had an unmistakable face.
It's completely, The second you see him, you're like, oh yeah, I remember that guy. Yeah.
He passed away though in 2005.
Yes, I mean he was not a young man.
Yeah.
And he also had like very, he was a very lanky, tall man with also very like pointed, long features. He had a long face. And I mean, honestly, he would play Pigeon Man in real life.
Yeah.
If they were making a live action one, he'd have played him too. If you want to see a great celebration of him, there's a video called Supporting Actor Spotlight, formerly called No Small Parts, about Vincent Schiavelli and his whole life, and also his love of cooking and his Sicilian heritage and all that. It's a really interesting video. It gives you more appreciation for an underrated character actor who just plays like bit parts. He's just like, oh yeah, I know that guy. That's like that guy, like Bob Balaban are the types.
Yeah,
he's always, that's who I always think of first for character actors is Bob Balaban.
I think of Mike Haggerty.
And they even call him Vincent. The character's name is Vincent in the episode.
That's nice.
And-
This scene in general is it's a nice scene because it's like you get this shadowy figure and it's like, oh God, there's the pigeon man. And then he turns around and it's like, oh, it's just this weird sad man, old man that makes weird pigeon noises.
And just moves very slowly and barely speaks.
Yeah, but then when he does speak, he has this really gentle voice and he's obviously, going to take care of Arnold's pigeon. So you're kind of like, okay, this guy's all right.
Bird people are nice people and they're misunderstood.
that's the whole plot of this episode.
And especially after you see the cool designs of scary Pigeon Man during Gerald's speech.
And crazy Pigeon Man.
Yeah, in his chicken suit even. And then also the way he just goes, coo, coo, like he's just speaking. He barely, I think actually it was ADR that he says, come back tomorrow. Like, it might have even worked better if he just said no words until the next time Arnold meets him.
That might have been too scary.
Yeah, that's true. And so now as an adult, when I watch this, I think to myself, how does Pigeon Man eat?
I was thinking about that too. I was like, oh, he probably just eats like birdseed and berries. He probably eats the same thing that he feeds the pigeons.
But how does he buy that birdseed?
He shoplifts a lot.
He sends the pigeons to steal it.
Exactly.
So my guess is that he was in the army and he's on an army pension. That's my guess.
I think Maddie's right because birds are nature's thieves.
They're just so cute. You can't stop them. And so Arnold gives a whole speech to the kids with the great intentions of demystifying Pigeon Man. But unfortunately, the side effect is that for assholes like Harold, they think now Pigeon Man is real enough to know that I can harass him. Like he's like, oh, now that I'm not scared of Pigeon Man, I know I can hurt him. And that's sad. Like, that's sad. That's depressing.
I do like Arnold's line though that because someone asked like if he smelled and Arnold goes, well, he smelled, but not bad.
I mean, if you live only around pigeons, you probably don't.
I mean, he probably smells
normal.
like birds.
Yeah.
Birds don't smell bad.
What do birds smell like?
When I give Louie a bath, he smells like wet cardboard.
Interesting.
It's very specific. I wasn't sure if you'd had such a good answer for that.
There you go. Also, he smells like dry cardboard most of the time.
Also, if you want to know that baby boomers wrote this show, that there's a cuckoo cachoo joke.
Yep.
Of course, real Beatles fans know that it's Goo Goo Gajoob.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Helga's not a real Beatles fan.
Yeah, she's a real phony there.
Stupid millennial.
You've been found out there. Arnold goes back to visit Pigeon Man to check on Chester, and he learns a bit about Pigeon Man.
I want to see him in a week to make sure he's recovered. Chester's a good bird.
How did you learn to talk to him?
I've spent a lot of time with him. I trust them. They trust me.
Don't you ever get lonely up here?
Lonely for what? For people? No. I've seen you and your friends around the neighborhood, Arnold. The kids remind me of me when I was growing up over on 23rd Street.
You grew up around here?
I went to PS 118.
I go to 118.
Is Miss Slovak still there?
She's my teacher now.
I did a project on birds when I was in her class. I became fascinated by birds. Fascinated. My friends thought I was weird, so they stopped talking to me. It's hard for me to trust people, Arnold.
There are good people too, Pigeon Man.
Maybe, Arnold. And you can call me Vincent.
Don't you ever miss the outside world? Like movies and TV and pizza?
Pizza. Oh, pizza.
I can relate to that.
The siren song of pizza.
Even when you're done with society, if then people are like, well, but pizza, you're like, fine, I'll come back.
I'll give people a chance because they make pizza. Birds can't make pizza.
Yeah,
Not yet.
So yeah, we get the real story of Pigeon Man. Basically, he was just a normal kid, and then he really liked birds, so he became Pigeon Man.
So don't like birds too much.
Yeah, the fact that his teacher was apparently Miss Slovak
doesn't make any sense
how
time-wise.
How old is she?
Yeah.
She will be drawn older in later appearances.
Okay. They're like, oops.
This guy's got to be in his 40s at least.
Maybe he just looks older since he.
Well, when he's being played by Schiavelli is like in his 50s or 60s.
Yeah, he has a very old voice,
this.
but it's so fitting and perfect. So,
Yeah, but I always read him as older than 40, especially with that the hat
I read him as like 60
like,
or something.
Yeah, but for Slovak, even when they gray her hair for later appearances, like in a teacher strike episode, she still she couldn't have been a teacher more than 40 years ago. No other way. But it's touching too for Arnold, just so he can know, like, oh, we had the same teacher.
Yeah,
we have
it's
so
just
much
that
in common.
connection, because it is. I mean, even though Arnold is like, okay, this pigeon man is okay, he's nice, he takes care of my birds, but then even more so, it's like, oh, he was just a normal person, and then he decided that he didn't fit into normal society.
I like to think that Pigeon Man is probably self-censoring for this kid asking his life story. He's like, well, I was treated weird as a kid in my school. He's probably not telling him the other times humanity has let him down,
like
as in
the Vietnam War.
Yeah. I learned people were pretty bad.
Let me tell you all about American history, Arnold.
He's tired of this earth. Like he's like Dr. Manhattan in Watchmen. Just like he's so tired of these people and their problems. He's beyond them now. He's actually more advanced. I mean, it's a little bit of the stereotype of the wise homeless man. A little.
Yeah.
But
at least they didn't make him a magical black man.
That is true.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I mean, he's not. I don't think he's homeless. I think he owns whatever.
Well, no, there was a fire in that place. I mean.
Oh, is that what it is? Okay.
Yeah. Well, at least if we can go by Gerald. Gerald doesn't know everything. But,
the fire owns it now.
I mean, the pigeons own it. That's
true.
Right? And so, yeah, poor Pigeon Man, he trusts again. He opens up his heart again, and it will only cost him. Though he does get to enjoy some nice pizza, including even he thinks pineapple on pizza is weird, though.
Yeah.
Pigeon Man, he's still judging things.
Are we anti-pineapple here? I like Hawaiian pizza.
I think all pizza is beautiful.
Yeah.
Under God's eyes.
I'm fine with it. I'm not. It's fine. I wouldn't. It wouldn't be my fifth choice on ordering stuff, but I'm fine with it.
All right.
I mean,
we're accepting of all kinds of pizza.
Yeah, no.
All pizza is good pizza.
I think it's Pigeon. I do love the line of like pineapple. Now that's weird.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, Pigeon Man finally letting his guard down for the first time in 40 years has left him vulnerable to shitty children like Harold. What though? So this is like Harold becomes less of a bully. He gets softened as years go on. But in the season one, he's a very realistic bully. And he's like he's stupid, destructive kid.
Stupid jerk.
Who like talks himself into doing horrible things. He's like, it'd be funny. Come on.
Especially with the ending of this episode, I feel like it's weird that they had regular characters do this horrible act because I think it makes them not redeemable at all.
Well,
they destroy this man's life and he has to leave.
There's an episode where Harold gets a kitten and that's what redeems it.
Oh, okay.
And he's like stuck in his house and like the police are trying to get him out, but he doesn't want to give up this kitten. So
he thinks that it's illegal that he has the cat.
You have to wait to have him redeem them, I guess.
Well, I do think they made a little change to if this was like a short story or a meaner show or one where they didn't have to have stories in the future where Harold is a likable character, then he wouldn't accidentally destroy it. So he grows up there with normal. I mean, he's shitty.
His plan is to take birdseed out of one bag and put it in another bag.
Yeah. But I mean, they are breaking some stuff.
Yeah.
But not like tearing the whole place
They're
apart.
irresponsible, but if Harold had said out loud, let's destroy all of his shit.
Right.
Screw this guy. If he'd done something like that, that would be irredeemable. So they have to sort of make it an accident.
I can see the dance they're doing.
Yeah, I mean, it's more realistic of a kid bully.
Yeah, to even be like the things just escalate quickly for Harold. He didn't mean for that to happen, but he's also just a destructive jerk.
He's a jerk, but he's not that much of a jerk.
Mm-hmm. And Arnold will get more direct bullies in the future too. Like Harold, almost in later episodes, he's too awkward to be a proper bully in future episodes. But yes, the kids make quite a mess.
Look, I'm Pigeon Man. I love my little pigeons. I wish I was a pigeon. Hey, what's with the birds?
Screaming.
The birds were not attacking; they just wanted the seed.
Yeah,
come on.
Yeah, no, I like how they do that specifically. It's like
Yeah.
they make the frame go. It's like, no, these birds are going after the seed. They're not evil pigeons.
Yeah, it's a very pro pigeon thing too. Of like, we're not going to make these evil pigeons who are even doing it because they love Pigeon Man and want to protect him or protect their space.
They're just hungry.
They think it's feeding time now. Now, what is pigeon tonic or bird tonic? That's
the potion he uses to make the bird get better.
It works with the berries.
Yeah.
It's God, poor Pigeon Man. He just loses everything just for opening his heart up once. Like it's really sad.
Way to screw up, Arnold.
Yeah, you really fucked this one up, Arnold. But yes, Arnold feels pretty bad. Well, meanwhile, Pigeon Man is honestly not even fazed by it.
What? This is awful. Who did this?
People, Arnold.
We can rebuild the cages and sweep up. Your birds will come back.
Of course they'll come back. They're birds. I trust them. I understand them. It's people I don't understand. You see, Arnold, it's time for me to leave here. Some people are meant to be with people. And others, like me, are just different.
Pigeon Man. Wait. None of this would have happened if I hadn't...
Arnold, don't be sad. You've taught me that some people can be trusted. And I'll never forget that.
Arnold's looking for the person responsible, like Vincent doesn't even care. He's just like,
Yeah, and I don't know. I feel like if this was, another show, you would have it end more like, hey, thanks, Arnold. Now I can come join society again. But Hey Arnold is more like, it just is like, no, some people don't fit in like regular people, and that's fine, and let them be. It's
not about him needing to. It's not. Arnold didn't want to make him fit the status quo or turn him into that, and he that's the statement of the episode too. Just like some people are meant to be around other people, some people aren't. But it did teach him. He did learn, like, I could be around some people.
Yeah.
I don't want to be away from all of them. Yeah.
The birds will come back, and they do, like, almost immediately.
Yes. Yeah. They're birds. You can trust them, of course. Birds
are famously trustworthy.
The only, thing I didn't totally love in this episode is just the Grapes of Wrath reference thing.
It's a little sweaty.
It's a sweet sentiment, though, because he's describing how he wants to help birds, and he has tears in his eyes.
Yeah.
But
I wish that wasn't couched in a parody, though,
Yeah, it took me out of it just a little bit. I mean, it's not, this is a picking of nits to be sure here, but
we're talking about his "I'll be there" speech from the Grapes of Wrath, in case you're wondering.
I cut that out just so.
Don't worry about it.
Too long, but it is a sweet moment, just a last moment with him and Arnold, and also I do like him talking about how he wants to help pigeons, which that also gave me a new dark insight into the sadness of Pigeon Man's life. Like, he loves birds, he loves pigeons. Like you said, Bob, you see a lot of you will see hurt pigeons in the city a lot. So if he's caring for all of them, how much pigeon pain has he had to see in his life?
He's almost like a Christ-like figure in this episode because he's caring for the most downtrodden of society. Yeah, Pigeon Jesus.
I mean, not unlike Christ, he ascends to heaven at the end of this too.
Yeah, it's true.
It's all a big Christianity metaphor. You guys cracked the code.
They're pushing religion on us in a kid's cartoon. How dare they? But yes, here's the farewell to Pigeon Man.
Remember, Arnold, always wash your berries before you eat them. And fly toward the sun.
Goodbye, Pigeon Man.
Yeah, so the ending scene is we have all these pigeons come back to Pigeon Man, and they use their beaks to grab onto these little rings all over his coat and just take off with Pigeon Man. And it's super bizarre, but I always love this scene, especially when I was a kid, because it's weird. It's okay, bye, Pigeon Man.
Magical realism. Also, the way that it is, quote unquote, shot is very cinematic, and that there are all these cuts to the same thing happening, but from different angles.
Yeah.
It's really, really beautiful.
It's really neat. And it definitely, like I mentioned before, every once in a while, Harold has this little bit of fantasy in it, which I think makes it really special, because it's just well, yeah, I mean, how could we end this episode with Pigeon Man? It can be oh, hey, we rebuild your thing and you're Pigeon Man again. Or it's like, well, no, he's just off to go take care of pigeons somewhere else.
When if he just walked away, like that would be just a little too quiet.
See ya, Pigeon Man.
Well, bye, I'm out of here. And he just
I was
walks down the
reading.
street.
Sorry, I was reading the Hey Arnold wiki, by the way.
Yeah,
and
I was
there's
gonna
some
talk about
dumbass
that.
internet rumor where it was like, oh, the original ending is he killed himself. Are you kidding me?
Yeah,
Are you
no.
12? Probably.
Ridiculous. Well, yeah,
That's what you get for reading the wiki, man.
That's who. Well, I mean, it is 12-year-olds who start that internet rumor.
Yeah.
Just like I heard, they actually. The problem was that Craig Bartlett actually took this fake rumor,
Seriously.
that's a troll rumor, seriously. So he's like, no, certainly not. We never play my like, duh. Like they submitted to Nickelodeon a scene where like, well, and then the friend that Arnold makes kills
Jumps off a
himself right in
building.
front of him. Like
and
that's
we
the end of the
see
episode.
his mangled corpse on the
Yes.
street.
Eaten
and
by
everyone's poking
pigeons.
at it with sticks.
Yeah, so
he gets eaten by the pigeons.
Yeah, it's like a Tibetan sky burial.
but I believe that Bartlett was so upset by that. You see Pigeon Man briefly in a scene in the Jungle movie,
Yeah.
just so you know he's still alive.
Yeah. Well, I can understand that. I think Craig Bartlett seems to be a pretty sensitive guy. And obviously, you see through Hey Arnold. And so, yeah, I can see why rumors like that would actually hurt him because it's like, that's not the intention at all. You're totally missing the point. So, yeah, that's really, man, I hate stupid.
Yeah, I'm
Jerks.
sad that got spread around.
I got
by
mad when I
anybody.
read that.
Yeah.
And
That's and the fact that it's on the freaking wiki.
Yeah,
it's
are
like,
you kidding me?
Man.
And then they hurt poor Craig Bartlett's feelings by
I
even
know.
asking him that question.
I know.
Yeah. But yes, you folks can relax. Pigeon Man is fine.
And then it ends with a very melancholy song that I'm sure was
Yeah.
interrupted with. Coming up next, it's Super Sloppy Double Dare on Nick. You learned about the inhumanity of humanity.
I love too the reveal of the flying suit because it shows that Vincent had this like potential in him that like he invented a way to fly.
Yeah.
He can do a thing
Yeah.
that no human can do.
Yeah.
And you could learn this from him if you only cared to. But it's like it's almost I said Jesus, but it's also like a very like Buddha-esque quality too of like, well, Buddha learned how to do this sleeping under the tree. You should learn from him too. Like it's a very sad ending that he fly. I mean, he is functionally dead in that he's left town. Like he'll never be seen on the show again, except when he sends Arnold a video message in the Jungle movie to show that he is living in Paris now. I guess he flew to Paris.
Oh, wow.
All the way there. I believe it with the pigeons in Notre Dame.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Does it say, I hope he's hanging out with all those talking gargoyles at the top of Notre Dame.
They're sharing baguettes.
But yeah, boy, what a touching episode. R.I.P. Vincent Schiavelli. What a great performance by him in just a few words. Like to just feel so like world weary and in his core that you can just hear in Vincent the Pigeon Man. And yeah, this is such just an archetypal great episode of Hey Arnold that shows like Arnold, the way Arnold navigates a world that's a little harsher than it needs to be and how he kind of squares with that. I really love it. So thanks for picking this one, Maddie.
Yeah. It was my first experience with Hey Arnold in like, I don't know, more than 20 years probably. And I really like the tone of the show. It's very unique, I think. It was not the wacky, violent, gross out cartoon I wanted in 1996, but I can appreciate it more now.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, it's definitely it's subtle and I think it's quite mature for a cartoon of its time, which I think makes it very special. And whether you've seen Hey Arnold before or if you've never seen it before, I think it's definitely worth revisiting. Like we mentioned, it's all up on Hulu right now, so it's really easy to go watch it. And there's tons of great episodes. I think it's pretty consistently great through the 5 seasons as well as the 2 movies.
Oh
So
yeah.
I definitely recommend checking it out or giving it a revisit if you haven't.
So thanks again to Maddie for being our special guest. I think we buried the lead here. We didn't say who Maddie is at the beginning because this is our second podcast recording with her today. She is one of our artists for the Talking Simpsons Patreon. She did all the art except for the header art. And she also has done the the covers for What a Cartoon and Talking Futurama and Talk King of the Hill, our upcoming series. So yes.
A great artist. Thanks so much for everything, Maddie. And where would folks be able to find you on the internet?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at the letter O, that's Raspberry, talking about mostly One Piece, but also other games and cartoons and junk. Lots of cats too.
It's mostly One Piece.
it's 99%. But yeah, I don't really have anything else right now because I am about to go to Japan. So yeah. That's
So
me.
you wanted to talk about Hey Arnold real quick before you headed off
Yeah,
to Japan.
yeah.
Thank you so much for finding the time for that.
Yeah.
And your Twitter is tons of fun. Folks should definitely check out all the cool cartoons you draw on there. They are great.
Really
yeah, and also if you haven't, I am also on the home movies episode of What a Cartoon.
That's right. Yeah. And we did a One Piece special with you that's on the Patreon as well.
So if you like listening to me, there you go.
As for us, we're part of the Talking Simpsons Network, and that is all of our shows together, including Talking Simpsons and What a Cartoon. And if you sign up for $5 at patreon.com/Talking Simpsons, you can get every episode of What a Cartoon and Talking Simpsons a week ahead of time and ad-free. And at that $5 level, we also have many, many, many bonus podcasts, including limited series like the aforementioned Talking Futurama and Talking Critic and Talking of the Hill, our upcoming 13-episode miniseries. It's Patreon exclusive. And on top of that, we have dozens and dozens of bonus podcasts that you've missed out on if you're not a patron yet. So, buddy, get on the Patreon train. It's better than that dinosaur train we talked about earlier.
And if you want to really enjoy What a Cartoon, you can go to the $10 level of Patreon support at patreon.com/Talking Simpsons, where you can hear our monthly What a Cartoon movie podcast. Me and Bob talked about Batman Mask of the Phantasm. We covered Kiki's Delivery Service, and in our longest podcast ever, 3 full hours, me and Bob go deep into the world of Akira.
So good.
So you'll definitely want to check all of those out and all of our previous videos for the $10 level at patreon.com/Talking Simpsons.
So as for me, I've been one of your hosts, Bob Mackey. Find me on Twitter as Bob Servo. My other podcast is Retronauts. It's a classic gaming podcast every Monday and occasionally Friday. Go to retronauts.com or subscribe to Retronauts via your podcast device. We're in there somewhere. Find us and subscribe and like and review and rate and share and other things too. Henry, how about you?
And I am Henry Gilbert. You can follow me on Twitter at HENEREYG. If you follow me there, you'll find all the updates on when new things go live for What a Cartoon, Talking Simpsons, and any of our Patreon exclusives, and tons more cool news. So be sure to follow me. That's HENEREYG.
Thanks for joining us this week, folks. We'll see you next week for the Amazing World of Gumball episodes, The Box, and The Console. We'll see you then.
You did good, kiddo. I'm proud of you.
We all are, man. Thanks, guys. It feels good to win, but I hope Helga's not taking it too hard.
I'm free! I'm free! I'm free!